Two coworkers start the same job on the same day. They're both 28, earning $65,000 a year with the same 401k and the same employer match. 35 years later, one retires with nearly $2 million. The other has just $400,000, a $1.6 million gap between two people who did almost everything the same. And it wasn't caused by stock picks, luck, or a higher salary. It came from one decision they made during their first week on the job. Let me show you why. Let's meet our two coworkers, Jake and Marcus. Same start date, same $65,000 salary, same 4% employer match. HR has them both the same enrollment form in their first week. The only difference between them is what they write on that form. Jake does what most new hires do. He picks 3%. It's what feels safe. It's enough to get some of the match. He tells himself he'll increase it later, once he's settled in, once he gets a raise, once things feel less tight. That later almost never actually shows up. For the next 10 years, Jake stays at 3%, occasionally bumping it a point when guilt kicks in, but always drifting back down whenever a car payment or a vacation gets in the way. Marcus does something almost boring. In that same first week, he checks a different box, 3% like Jake, but he also checks one small option sitting quietly at the bottom of the form. Automatic annual increase, 1% per year up to a cap of 15%. He doesn't think about it again. He never has to decide to save more. The form decides for him every single year, automatically before the money even touches his paycheck. For the first few years, almost nothing seems different. Their balances grow at nearly the same pace, and neither of them thinks much about retirement. That's exactly what makes this mistake so dangerous. By the time the gap becomes obvious, Marcus's early head start is already compounding. By year 10, Jake is contributing 3%, same as day 1, occasionally touching 4% right after a performance review, then sliding back down. His account sits around $95,000. Marcus, meanwhile, is now contributing 12%, purely because the automatic increase has been quietly doing its job every single year without a single decision from him. His account sits around $175,000. Same salary, same market, same fund choices. An $80,000 gap, and neither of them has said a word to the other about it, because on the surface, nothing looks different. Two guys, same job, same lunch table. Here's the part almost nobody explains, and it's the entire engine behind this gap. It isn't really about the extra dollars Marcus is contributing. Those matter, but the bigger advantage is time. Every extra dollar Marcus invested in his 20s had decades to compound before retirement. Jake's catch-up contributions came much later, giving them far less time to grow. That's why catching up is so much harder than getting started. By year 20, Jake has had a wake-up moment. A financial planner, a birthday, a scary headline. Something finally pushes him to bump his contribution up to 8%. He finally feels like he's getting retirement back on track. His balance sits at roughly $340,000. Marcus, who has done nothing but let his original form run on autopilot, is now contributing 15%, the cap he hit years earlier without noticing. His balance sits at roughly $650,000. Jake just made a real, genuine improvement to his savings rate, and the gap still grew instead of shrinking, because Marcus's early decade of compounding is now bigger than anything Jake can do to catch up. This is the part that should sting a little, and I want to be honest about it instead of glossing over it, because that's the whole point of this channel. Jake did not make a bad decision at year 20. Increasing to 8% was the right move. But the math doesn't care about good intentions arriving late. A dollar saved at 48 simply cannot do what a dollar saved at 20 can do, no matter how disciplined you become afterward. The account doesn't know you tried harder. It only knows how long the money has been compounding. By year 35, both men retire at 63. Jake, who eventually pushed his contribution rate up to 10% in his final decade working, ends with a balance of roughly $410,000.
Marcus, who never once manually changed his contribution after that first form, ends with a balance of roughly $1,950,000. Same employer, same market returns, same starting salary. A gap of $1,540,000 between two people whose only real difference was a single checkbox neither of them thought about on day one. Now, I'd want to steelman Jake for a second, because this isn't as simple as Jake was careless. Jake's early years were genuinely tight. A young family, student loan payments, a smaller apartment that he wanted. 3% felt like the responsible, sustainable number at the time. And for a lot of people in that position, it is the right call in year one. The mistake wasn't starting at 3%. The mistake was never building in a mechanism to move off of it. He left the decision to his future self, and future selves are notoriously bad at raising their own contribution rate voluntarily, because every year there's a new reason it doesn't feel like the right moment. And I should be fair to the automatic increase option too, because it isn't magic and it isn't free of downsides. For someone living paycheck to paycheck, an automatic 1% jump every year without warning can genuinely strain a budget at the wrong moment. A new baby, a rent increase, a medical bill. Marcus got a little lucky that his expenses didn't spike in a year his contribution jumped. Automating a good habit only works if you can occasionally check in and pause it during a real financial shock. Set it and forget it is powerful, but it isn't a replacement for paying attention entirely. So here's what the honest version of this lesson actually is. It was never simply save more. Plenty of people hear that advice, nod, and change nothing. Because save more isn't a decision, it's a mood, and moods don't survive a Tuesday afternoon when a bill shows up. The actual lesson is that the decision that matters most isn't made continuously. It's made once, structurally, at the very beginning in a way that doesn't require your future self to have any willpower at all. Marcus didn't win because he was more disciplined. In every visible way, Jake tried harder over the years. Marcus won because he built a system in his first 90 days that made the discipline automatic, permanently removing the decision from his own hands. If you're watching this and you know your own contribution rate has been sitting untouched for years, that's the checkbox worth going back and finding right now. Today. Not after this video ends. Not the fun selection. Not the ticker symbol everyone's chasing. The automatic increase box, sitting quietly at the bottom of a form most people skip past in their first week on a new job. Jake and Marcus started with the same paycheck, the same retirement plan, and the same opportunity. 35 years later, a single checkbox separated them by more than $1.5 million. Retirement usually isn't decided by one brilliant investment. It's decided by one small decision you stop thinking about decades before you retire. Now, you know which decision that is.